Hi, YouTube. Happy New Year. At least I hope it is. It's been a good day so far. Um, I had some stuff out of my refrigerator in the cooler I had to use up, so I made a enchilada hot dish with a pound of hamburger and corn tortillas and that type of and enchilada sauce cheese this morning. So that's what I had breakfast, and I usually don't, but it was a dinner for breakfast or supper, wherever. However, some people call it dinner, some call it supper. I call it breakfast, lunch, and dinner usually, or I don't know, or supper, I guess. But either way, so, but yeah. Oh, some of you know I had those red squirrels on my bird feeder or squirrel feeder, and the other day I had a half a dozen gray squirrels, and they're big compared to them little red ones. They're about this big with a tail, and the big ones are, a foot long, about like that, and really fat because we have oak trees and things that they love around here to eat. So they don't go hungry even in the middle of winter. There's dried berries like wild cranberries on bushes and stuff like that. And I have a very sore throat today. I used a brand of um, cigarette filters that aren't very good, and it makes them really harsh. So I was like coughing all night long. And that's what it is because I've used them before and the same thing happens. So I'm getting some other ones today. There are some out in Doug's hot rod that he's got under a tarp with wire on it and a gunji cord, and I'd have to dig it out. And I've been digging out wood out of the snow pile today and traipsing through snow in the backyard and that. It's not bad because I was walking on the crust of the snow. I'm doing really good, but then all of a sudden, when you fall through the crust, it's like, you know, so it was a couple feet deep, and it's about a foot deep now because a lot of it melted. And I guess we have warm weather coming in, so I was Robin's Hood was live last night for a while. I was on there, but literally I felt some dark energy on there that I didn't care to deal with, and it seemed like even if I was writing sensible, and other people were too, but it just seemed like yeah, he was responding to it. He knows my heart is sincere, but it was like that was the only person I was talking to, like nobody else. So it's like, yeah, why? But I mean, that wasn't the only reason I had to go and make something to eat too. It was already 10:29, I think, when I clicked off it, and so I just made a sandwich last night. Well, two of them, and had a glass of milk. And Doug was already in bed. He had peanut butter toast and went to lay down. So when I was ready to make something, he was already sleeping, and he was full, so he didn't want nothing. And so me and the kitties had tuna fish. I gave the dog a little tiny bit, not much, but and my one sick kitty, I've been having to hold her food and water for her. I gave her a bath yesterday, and she got up once last night, and then I covered her back up, which is really odd because she doesn't usually like being covered up. Excuse me, but she did. She does now, so she's all bundled up, and but I think she's going blind because she goes to take a drink of water, and if she puts her nose in it, it's like she almost inhales it. She was having troubles drinking because she was so sick. I think that her eyes are going bad because I told her just put your tongue out first before your nose hits the water. Let your tongue get in the water first so you don't drown yourself. So if I'm there to talk to her while she's drinking. And it could be part for show too, because she's not feeling good. Animals do play the sympathy card, and I don't, or empathy. I don't blame her because she really been very sick. So, but she seems to be a little bit doing it. She went 3 days with not. I could not get her to eat, and I thought, well, I'm gonna have to take her in. And finally, I did get her eating something that Doug got her these things she didn't like when he first got them, called lickables. It's a lickable treat. They have like shrimp and tuna. She liked the tuna one. I gave her chicken. She didn't want any. And even the chicken lickable. It was tuna and chicken. She didn't want it. And I gave her real chicken, chunk chicken, um, out of a pack, not out of a can, and she didn't want any of that. So she likes these little lickables. I've been getting them in her now, so that's a good thing. So let's see what else is going on. Well, my internet was down for almost 4 days off and on, and Doug was talking to the tech, and she said to him, "Well, it was on for like an hour the night before," and he's like, "Well, how was I supposed to know that?" What it is when they get overloaded with their service, and especially around holidays, it seems the service is worse. And there's a guy we're going to buy a refrigerator from, maybe, or we might be getting a new one, but I think we'll probably go with this guy that has one. And well, anyway, uh, yeah, well, he was trying to call and he couldn't get through, and we ended up, the only way I could communicate with him, even Facebook Messenger wouldn't let me type anything. All I could do was put a voice message through to him and say, "Yeah, Doug tried to contact you, but it wouldn't go through." And he said that his phone, and he's got Verizon, we've got HughesNet, but even Verizon Wireless, they were having troubles too. And he lives further north than us, and he used to live down in this area, so he knows right where we live, and was going to deliver the refrigerator. Well, then the snow hit and things were bad. So it could have been part of the snow making our internet bad too, because snow can get in the dish and make it horrible. But the last time they were out here, they had to move it. They had put up a new satellite up in the air, and they had to come out and readjust our dish to point it towards the new satellite. Well, they said that needed to be done again, and they wanted us to pay like 129 bucks again. And Doug's like, "Forget it." And they said, "Well, how about half?" And finally, I think he ended up getting where he's going to come out for free. But like I asked Doug, okay, did the wind blow it? Well, my first thing was did the earth move? Why is our satellite dish like out of whack? Because it's stationary. It's bolted onto a building, you know, and it can't move. It's bolted, and the bolts aren't loose. I mean, these are big machined bolts. There's no way. So I think it's kind of like a money making scam, because if they do that to millions of people, and last time, like Doug said, and this was what I told him to tell him, how can they charge us to come out and fix their service that doesn't work? you know so it doesn't make sense. It sounds like a class action lawsuit. So we'll see. Doug says, "I have all this paperwork here where your text said this, that, and the next thing last time all this happened." And he said, "Right now, if my phone's out, not only do we lose out on money for work, because we did, um, if there's an emergency, somebody could actually die." So, and Doug really did need an ambulance last time he fell. I wasn't going to drive at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 by the time, he got into the house. So, no, but anyway, I think it helps to be sober when you're climbing ladders, but that's just my personal opinion. You know, it's bad enough. I've fallen off ladders and it hurts, you know. It really does, especially when you hit the rungs going down. Or um, I had one that was falling sideways and I had to jump in midair. Um, and I used to jump off buildings when I was a kid and walls and all kinds of things. I did 3 stories, was 30 foot jumped. So I was used to jumping. But when you have to do it surprise, surprise, you almost died, that type of thing. Well, you're lucky when you're falling that if you don't fall on anything, or like Doug just about broke his back. So, and when I jumped off that 30-foot building, I felt like I shattered my ankles, but I didn't. But I think if I hadn't ice skated and um, skied and snowshoed and all them winter sports, and it's tough. Those are tough. Even roller skating, built up my legs. If it wasn't that my legs were so strong, I probably would have broke something. But my muscles saved me a lot of times. So yeah. Well, Robert Trevor in the UK. I hope you start feeling better soon. Seems pretty serious that you would get out of the hospital and then they have to just take you right back in a day later. So, with intravenous and all that, and I saw where they missed your veins. That's really bad. Some people have a hard time getting intravenous things because, well, it could be the muscles or even the layers of the skin, and the nurse or technician or orderly might have well, it wouldn't be an orderly, but it would be a nurse. I'm not sure. I'm sure they probably call it nurse over there too, but sometimes they just can't see the veins, or I don't know. I don't know. I've seen people get poked, and I had one friend, it was a woman, and they kept poking her and couldn't find her veins. Well, for me, mine are like, see that? They're just right up on the surface. So, yeah. And I've had to have intravenous and plenty of times, more than I can remember right now. So, several times. And it's not, especially when they put it in your crook of your arm where your elbow is on the other side. That really hurts because but they tape it, but like right there, but you want to bend your arm, you know. So you got to lay there with your arms and you got these holes poked in you, and it's like, oh, it's pretty awful. So, yeah. Oh boy. I spent the whole day just cleaning up messes from what that refrigerator caused me, and I got a little mark. I was trying to undo these, well, they're hex bolts on the door of the refrigerator, and I was trying to use just a regular, well, it's a fencing pliers, which is dangerous because it's got kind of like a blade in there and a square um, clamp instead of the regular pliers. It's like a giant wire cutter. So I was using that, and I slipped and cut my finger open. It's better now. It's healing. It was kind of bad the first day I did. I felt pretty stupid, but I asked Doug to bring in a quarter-inch socket, and he forgot. So it's like, well, I mean, I can go out there, but I do a lot of walking actually. So if he's going out there anyway, there's no sense me doing that, So anyway, so yeah, I felt dumb. Do you ever use a screwdriver and you're using it and you're like really busy and you slip? I mean, I got a what do you call it? A power screwdriver now, but back in the days before we had them. So anyway, that hurts. One time I had a really pretty ring my adopted mom got me. It said LOVE, and the O was a little heart with a tiny little diamond in it. And I got that for my golden birthday. Um, a lot of things they did do for me was for show. I took a lot of my jewelry. That one there got stolen from me, but when I cut off ties with my family, I took all my jewelry and anything that would remind me of them and took it to the pawn shop, literally, and sold everything for like cheap. Not because I needed the money. I mean, it was nice to have at the time too, because I literally did not want to ever wear anything that they had given me because they had burnt me so bad. It's like I don't want nothing from them people. So, but anyway, I had this ring on and I was coming running down the stairs in my junior high school. There was a little tiny nail on the banister sticking out, and it caught my ring and my finger and twisted it. So I had to stay there with that twisted ring on my finger until I could find the janitor, and he had a pliers and I think it was a wire cutter with a metal cutter. We got in there and he was able to. I don't know if he cut it off or straightened it, and I got it off, but I do remember like going into the bathroom and I think I put soap on it then and got it off. But I mean, it was like really on there tight. And by the time I found the janitor, it was really bad. So, yeah, it was funny. Um, well, I would skip school and in that year especially I was going through some things and there was this poor woman named Mrs. Hawkins, um, real beautiful black lady. I felt so sorry for her too because of what I do, but she'd see me at one end of the school and I go running up the stairs to the third floor, run over to the other side of the building and down and maybe even into the basement and back another floor and run out to trick her. But she'd even call out my name sometimes and I'd wave and just keep running, that poor lady. But it all started really, I was in the lunchroom and I had this girl touching me and I slapped her. Um, and they wouldn't suspend her and she touched me first, but they suspended me for 3 days. Well, I was humiliated, you know, and it pissed me off. Well, then when at the end of the year in my yearbook, the assistant principal, I had put hee haw like a donkey and drew donkey ears on his picture. Well, I went in to have the ladies in the office sign my yearbook, and he asked me to come in there. He wanted to sign that, and he saw that, and he said, "Interesting artwork." He said you might want to take up some hobbies or something. I guess something smart assy at me. I mean, I don't know. He was just a creep. I used to wear my bangs really, really long, and you know, I don't know if he's the one. Somebody called me a sheepdog. That I should get my hair out of my eyes, and I went like this and just glared at him. So I don't know. I don't know if that was that time, but I went through some really terrible things medically, and he wasn't very understanding. So, yeah, was just a jerk. So, anyway, But yeah. So I hope everybody is feeling good and is looking forward to. I mean, I think it's going to be a hard year, but I also think there's a lot of people in the world that are fed up with the way things are. I mean, when we walk around the streets, I mean, you can't even go anywhere without seeing somebody that needs, you know, and it's just, I mean, all these rich people, you'll see somebody really, really rich getting in a vehicle right next to somebody so terribly poor that the contrast is just sickening. And that's another thing that's been on my mind. I mean, I never was a Trump supporter, but I'm not a Trump hater. Well, when he first got into office, he said he was going to pull troops out of Afghanistan and Syria and bring them home. Now, this has been the longest legal war. They call it a legal war, whatever that is supposed to mean, that we've had. And he's a liar. He sent more troops in there just the other day. So, um, I can't stand by somebody that, I mean, first people say they're Christians, but then they're going to support troops, you know? I don't get it. It's either one or the other. You can't have it both ways. You just can't. But yet they're going to sit there and run around. And every country does this. They all put money, taxpayers' money, towards killing people all over the planet. And I still say, if people locally were being bothered, they're going to take care of stuff on their own. You know, the men in the or even whoever, you know, if people came on to our property or even in the United States, that I can see. But we're going other places and putting our noses in. And to support Israel, um, I am so against that. I have no words. Um, their beliefs of pedophilia and everything like that, and it is true. Their beliefs um, is nothing. There's nothing in their society that I can correlate with and say, hey, this is okay. This is what God would want. And yet, taxpayers' money goes towards that. Everybody's protecting this little tiny country because they think that's the origination or where God is from or the holy city or no, it's not. It'd be a better chance that like Algiers, Africa, like the Casbah, some of the worst places in the world, probably more likely that some place in Africa or Ethiopia would be closer to where the origins of where the first people were and where God appeared to mankind to begin with. So, yeah. Anyway, it's all a bunch of baloney, but I'm pretty disgusted in it. And I hope more people get disgusted in it and get these politicians out of our faces that want wars and support wars and make money off it and are dumb enough to send their kids and tell their children that being a soldier is cool, that they're defending our freedom. No, they're not. Tell that to the Native Americans. Really. They sure didn't support them, and they still don't. They took all the most beautiful land, the government did, and kept it for themselves, and put the natives on desert and barren land where they couldn't even feed themselves and take care of the families. They starved. They either had to walk out of there or starve, you know. And they still think that's okay. They still think making a treaty with people that don't speak the same language or did limited were represented in a just way for stealing their land. No way. And I still say all of it should go back to the natives. Yes, it should, and they should govern it like they always did. So they weren't killing the white people first. It didn't go like that. So and it's nothing to do with race. I'm all kinds of things. It has absolutely nothing to do with race. It has to do with the America I love. And it isn't, it's God bless America, but then America, it's South America, Canada, but the USA, you know. Yeah, I'm a patriot up to a point, but patriotism stops with these people that think that any murder is okay, you know. When we go into other people's lands and we're bombing them like we have been, always did, and they justify it, you know, doesn't work like that to me. If they can't push more peace treaties and more, am I trying to say, global unity as far as not new world order, but as far as summit talks and that type of thing between countries. Not who's going to boycott who with our goods or anything like that. But although that does work, if you don't get something in your country that you need and you want to murder somebody, then why should we help support a country that would do that? And Israel does. Israel kills people, we help them, you know. So I guess I'll leave it on that note. That's what's really been on my mind lately is Trump sending more troops over there and the people in this country, my country, and all over the world that approve of their armies and think that there's something grand about it. And then you say you love God and you love people and you're a liar. If that's how you feel, you're a liar. And Trump's a liar. So, I mean, I didn't want it to come down to this. And I was even trying not gonna say it until they got back from their holiday vacations here back into the White House. I think tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. And I tried not to say anything because I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt because I know there's some things he's not lying about. And I do know that the Democrats have really liberal ways about them that to me is not democracy anymore. Like I say, like even with abortion, um, and being able in like in New York to abort a baby at 9 months old, if that baby's still living, I swear to God they should slap it on that woman's chest and make her take that baby's life herself. And then I want to see the death certificate and I want to see what happens to that body parts of that baby after they murder it. That type of thing. So I mean, as a citizen, that helps make the laws. And I have, um, we have that right. We have the right to say what we want to see in our country. And the Democrats, it's not democracy anymore. It's neolibertarianism. They're so liberal. It's like who can be the weirdest and we'll go with that. So that's the way I feel about it. And I used to be more Democrat if I would have had to pick one. Now I wouldn't pick any of them. You couldn't pay me enough. there's not enough money to make me get involved with any of it, even though I have a right to say what I see going on around me. So, well, I'll leave it at that, everybody. Um, have a really nice day. I wanted to wish you a happy new year, and my friends that aren't feeling well feel better, and um, I'll be back as soon as I can. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.